This is an SM Media production. Hi everyone and welcome to the 10th episode of the Sit Down right here on SM Media. I'm Scott McPike, I'm the host, delighted to be here again. This week I'm joined by the current Livingston right back, former Ayr United and Walsall man, and as Mark Roberts says, the best signing he ever made as a manager, Nicky Devlin. Nicky, thanks very much for coming on the show, mate. Pleasure to have you on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Worries, mate.
Delighted to come on.
How you been? You all right?
Yeah, all good. All good. Can't complain. Still being able to play football, so can't complain too much.
How delighted are you just to have the football back?
Yeah, listen, it's strange times for everybody, but we're kind of in a privileged position where we get to do our job. We still get to go and play, so hard for maybe us to moan too much about things, because obviously there's a lot of people kind of a lot worse off than us just now. So I'm just kind of delighted that we've got games and we're able to play.
Mm-hmm. It was a kind of maybe a great year for you. You were maybe getting married. So what's kind of happening there?
Yeah, well, it's obviously been postponed until next year, which wasn't ideal. But we could have got other dates, but it was during the season. I don't want to have to tell the missus that I've got Rangers or Celtic on a Sunday or whenever it was, instead of getting married. So we're provisionally booked it for next year. So fingers crossed, everything will be okay by then. But listen, you never know.
Brilliant. Here's hoping. As well as that, I'm just kind of want to ask, what's the big kind of takeaway for playing with no fans and things like that? What's the hardest thing from the current situation?
It's hard because I think when the game starts, I've not really noticed it. I think once you kind of get playing and stuff, you're kind of in that zone that you're just concentrating on the game. Maybe when the ball goes dead, or there's somebody down getting treatment, usually maybe a bit of interaction with the fans, maybe giving you stick or whatever, or kind of encouraging you. You maybe miss that, but when the game's actually getting played, I've not really to say I've not noticed it. It's just because you're so focused in the game usually. It's just something that I've kind of been able to deal with. I think it's probably not been easy for a lot of players, but to be fair, it's something I think I've been able to deal with okay.
Brilliant. We'll make a wee start just on your kind of early years, like growing up. Where did you grow up, Nicky?
I was always Bishop Briggs in Glasgow. That's where I've been from a wee boy. Only kind of moved house once, to be fair. Always been Bishop Briggs. Never kind of moved away from here.
And what was kind of family life like? You in school as well? How were you as a youngster?
Yeah, I was alright. I thought quite well behaved and stuff like that. I don't think I was wasn't too bad. But no, I had a kind of really good upbringing. Mum and dad looked after me, me and my wee brother really well. So I could kind of not have no complaints. But they gave us kind of everything and the platform to to go and play football as much as we did. And they're a big kind of reason why I'm probably where I've got to today so far.
Definitely. And who were your kind of heroes when you were growing up, and what team did you follow when you were young?
Heroes growing up, not too sure. I'd probably say Larson. All my family are Celtic, to be fair. So he was obviously one of the kind of main players at the time when I was kind of younger. So I'd probably say him. But to be fair, my dad's a big Man United fan as well, so I kind of watched a lot of Man United when I was growing up. So listen, between kind of Man United and Celtic, that was kind of the two main teams that my dad kind of followed.
Mm-hmm. And when did you kind of start playing football?
To be fair, just from when I don't know, when you can just remember yourself kind of starting to play. I remember obviously my first boys club was West Park United. Just in Bishop Briggs, that was the first team I played for. So probably that's maybe the earliest memories I've got of playing. Used to play, was it 4 or 5 games you would play on a Saturday morning. and they were about 15-minute matches or something like that. So yeah, that's kind of playing for West Park. Was the kind of earliest memories I've got, really.
What position did you start
I was actually a midfielder, to be fair, to begin with. As I got older, I've kind of got further back. I think when managers have maybe realised not that good anymore, I'm getting further and further back the pitch. So, no, but I started off as a midfielder, and then when I was kind of a youth at Hamilton, under 13s, under 14s, that's when I kind of moved to right back then, and I've just been right back ever since.
Brilliant. And who kind of scouted you for Hamilton when you were coming through? Like, how did that come about?
I know the head of youth at the time was a guy called, I'm sure John Bean, his name was.
Right.
And that's who I went there under kind of him. And then I was there for 3 or 4 years, and then dropped back down to Boys Club and played for Drumchapel Amateurs for a few years. And then kind of moved on from there to Dumbarton. But I really liked Hamilton. I made a lot of good friends in that. Hamilton was a good club. And obviously they've got a kind of very good youth set up that they kind of usually produce a lot of players coming through. So no, I really enjoyed my time there as well.
And you say it as a really good youth development, like the kind of examples like McCarthy and MacArthur, they were the two kind of big ones that went through. Was there a few kind of players playing alongside you that went on to do pretty well for that youth development?
From that team, Ziggy Gordon, who eventually became captain at Hamilton, he was captain of the youth setup. The youth team I was in. Ross Barber, who played kind of quite a few times for Kilmarnock and stuff and that as well. So no, there was a couple of us. A lot of the boys are still playing kind of a good level at junior. But no, we had a decent side, to be fair. Hamilton always kind of do. They always one of the ones that can give Celtic and Rangers and stuff like that a good game at that level, because a lot of the time Celtic and Rangers youth teams are, a lot of times similar to the first team, they're just far superior, to be honest. But we were always one that they kind of held their own against them. So no, it was good the 3 or 4 years I was there.
And what was the kind of coaching like in the training? How did that kind of stage you later on?
It was good. It was Paul Ronald was the manager, who obviously ex-pro as well, and had a couple of stints at managing and assistant managing just now, kind of junior level. And it was really good. We were obviously 3 times a week, which is a lot. Well, it's more than a lot of part-time senior clubs do just now. I think most of the part-time senior clubs are probably twice a week. So it was a big commitment, and that's, as I said, why it was kind of owe a lot to kind of my mum and dad. They were, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, driving through to Hamilton to sit and watch me train for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then on a Sunday, wherever you were playing, they would take you there as well. So it is a big commitment, to be fair, and as I said, 3 times a week when you're quite young is quite a lot, but I think it probably is the best way to improve. The more you play, kind of the better you get.
Definitely. And then when you leave kind of Hamilton, you move on to Dumbarton. And did you feel, were you kind of worried like when you left Hamilton, like you were going to kind of miss out?
No, because when I first left Hamilton, I went and played with Drumchapel just for a couple of a year and a half, and I really enjoyed it. I was back kind of playing. Obviously, my dad's the manager of the senior team there, so I was playing in one of the youth teams. So it was great for me just to be back, enjoying playing football again, and got that kind of buzz back. And then moving on to Dumbarton, I went in there with the under-17s at first, but I was only kind of there for maybe a year, and then I'd kind of been moved into kind of training with the first team quite a lot. So no, I knew that, if I worked hard and you have to have a bit of luck, but you get a bit of luck as well, then there was a chance that I could maybe kind of force my way back into the senior game, and lucky enough I managed to do that.
Mm-hmm. And when you go into Dumbarton, Alan Adamson was the manager. All right.
Yeah. At first it was Jim Chapman. So Jim Chapman was the manager, and I was in training quite a bit with the first team, and then Jim Chapman actually gave me my debut on the Saturday, and then on the Tuesday he left the club.
Okay.
So I was kind of, obviously, make your debut, you're kind of buzzing. You're like, you think you don't think you're a footballer, but you're like, I've made my senior first senior start. I'm only 17, brilliant, blah blah. And then on the Tuesday, the manager leaves, and you're kind of like, well, what happens now? You know what I mean? And obviously, there was a lot of players maybe had been through that before. I obviously hadn't. You know what I mean? It was my first, as I said, my first game senior, so I'd never been through a change of manager or anything. But yeah, then Alan Adamson came in, and then I kind of played for almost the majority of that season. I think I played the rest of the season, to be fair, which was great. It kind of got me a lot of games under my belt.
Mm-hmm. What was Alan Adamson like as a mentor?
Yeah, he was good. He put a lot of faith in me because, as I said, I was only 17 and the team wasn't doing great. So for him to kind of, especially me being a defender, for him to kind of put me in and keep me in the whole season, as I said, he obviously showed a lot of faith in me. I don't really think he actually took me out. I think there was a couple of times I played with Scotland schoolboys on the Friday night, and then on the Saturday he asked how I was and if I was feeling okay. And I mean, you're young, you're not going to tell first team manager when you're 17, oh no, I'm tired. So I would say, yeah, listen, I am fine. So a couple of times I actually played on the Friday night and then the Saturday with Dumbarton, which, listen, looking back, you probably wasn't the best thing for me, but as I said at the time, you're just kind of like, I am fine. So he obviously had a lot of faith in me, which obviously stood me in good stead going forward.
How good is that psychologically when a manager has a faith in you at that kind of age?
Oh, I definitely. You just see, to be fair, at any age, if you've got the kind of, if you're under the impression the manager likes you, then I think it makes players go out and play with a lot more confidence. As you said, if they've got faith in you, you know that they obviously rate you as a player. They think that you're going to help the team, and it does help you definitely when going out to playing on the Saturday and Tuesday night, whenever it is. You do have a lot of confidence getting into games, thinking, if the manager backs me, then I must be doing something right.
Mm-hmm. And when you in that team, who was the kind of characters in the dressing room, kind of mentors for you?
Yeah, we had. Well, to be fair, there was quite a few. To be fair, when I first signed there, Ryan McStay obviously was really good. He was really good with me as well. Always talking, and he came through a youth set up at Falkirk, I'm sure. So
right.
I think he kind of understood the maybe the value of young boys coming through. Because obviously he was in a system that relied on it probably quite heavily. Obviously Ben Gordon was a captain at the time who was brilliant with me. Andy Geoghegan, there was quite a few, to be fair. They were all. I don't think there was really anyone that didn't help you. Everyone was obviously, because we weren't in a great position.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was kind of trying to help each other and get the best out of each other. So a lot of them kind of took me maybe under their wing and just helped me through kind of maybe the difficult times that I was having at times.
Mm-hmm. You said it was quite difficult for Dumbarton. Livingston were kind of running away with the league at that season. How good a team were they? Yeah,
they were. Listen, I think they were probably the only full-time team at the time in League One. So it makes a big difference. It's the players are sharper, they're probably that wee bit quicker, they seem stronger, they move the ball quicker, everything. They just, being full time obviously helps a lot in that respect. And they were the best team. I think they won it maybe record points, or they won it record how early they won it or whatever it was. But yeah, they were a really good side, and that was them obviously, because I think they got relegated to the bottom tier, so they were working their way back up. And they kind of strolled the second division, then strolled the first division to go back into the Championship. So they were a good side, to be fair, at the time.
And obviously you were doing really well personally, and a couple of teams are looking at you. Was it Motherwell did Motherwell always stand out as a team you wanted to go to?
Well, to be fair, actually during the season, I had to get I took a week off school because I went down and I was going to sign for Preston.
Right.
So I was down there went down there to train for a week. Darren Ferguson was the manager at the time.
Right. Okay.
So I had been down Monday to Friday, and my dad came down on a Friday just to kind of speak to the manager and just to see how I'd done. And when my dad first walked in to speak to him, the first thing he said to my dad was, "How much do you want?" And my dad was kind of taken aback because obviously my dad hadn't heard how I'd done. He had only heard from me me kind of saying I think I've done all right there, I maybe should have done better here, and obviously Dan Ferguson made it very clear he wanted me to sign there and then. And my dad was kind of like, well, listen, he's only 16, or he's only 17. So, and he got the road and speak to his mum. I can't just say I'll sign today and then have to go home and tell his mum that's him moving out or whatever. And that was obviously on the Friday. So, but we had agreed the next Friday I would travel back down, and as long as kind of, not if everything was okay, Mum, but you know what I mean. If once we had talked everything through, I would go back down the next Friday to sign. And then on the Saturday, I don't know who Preston were playing, the first team, and they lost. And on the Sunday, Dan Ferguson gets sacked.
Right, okay.
And that was everything just completely from there. From that, on the Monday, they scrapped any kind of incomings, outgoings that was going to be happening. It was in roughly about January time, to be fair, because I remember when I was down there, it was freezing. So it might have been during the January kind of transfer window, but all transfers got completely scrapped. They weren't anything that was meant to be incoming or outgoing got stopped. So that obviously kind of fell through. And at the time, I was kind of like thought that was maybe my big kind of not big chance, but good chance to go down, play with a good club in England, kind of learn as much as I can down there, because they had a few Scottish boys at the time playing for them, which would have obviously helped me as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Then with that kind of falling through, Motherwell then came in, and then when I spoke to everyone at Motherwell and stuff, it seemed like a good club to play for, and obviously they've had a good track record as well of kind of bringing young boys through, which was obviously a big appeal to me.
And what was the reaction like at Dumbarton when you signed the pre-contract?
I think everyone was just kind of delighted for me, to be honest, because obviously I hadn't played that many games. I mean, I was roughly around about January time, so I think I came in just after my 17th, the week after my 17th birthday was my debut. So from the end of kind of October to January, that's all I had played at that point. So I'd only played maybe 10, 12 games. So I think everyone was just kind of, as I said, kind of delighted for me that, you know, I mean, I had the chance to go and move on full time. I was still only 17, so there was never anything kind of anything from Dumbarton's point of view of standing in his way, but kind of weren't happy or anything like that. I think they were. I mean, even the management team, I think, were delighted with me, were delighted for me as well.
And when you leave that season, like, how would you look back in your time at Dumbarton? Was it just a great learning curve, as a young boy?
Yeah, definitely. Listen, I maybe found myself kind of, and I was maybe fortunate that we weren't doing great, because obviously if we were doing really well, I might have not found myself given the opportunity or given the chance, you know what I mean? So maybe the fact that we weren't doing brilliant not helped me, but it made me play as much as I did, because obviously, as I said, I don't think I missed a game that season once I started playing. And I mean, a lot of the time when young boys come through, they're kind of dipped in and out and given a run of games and taken out for a while. I obviously, because of the position we were in, that didn't ever happen for me. I had to kind of play every game, which was brilliant for me. You know what I mean? It got me a lot of experience, got me used to playing first team games regularly on a Saturday. So no, I'd kind of look back at my time there. It was really good.
And what was your kind of first interactions with Stuart McCall?
He seemed like he came across very, very well. Him and Kenny Black, he's obviously his assistant. Came across really, really good. My first year, when I first went there, I was obviously in with Gordon Young in the youth team, so I obviously dealt a lot more with Youngie, who was brilliant as well. Really enjoyed working with Gordon, and but it was just a really good club, to be honest with you. It was a lot of good people behind the scenes. The coaching staff are all really good, always really kind of helpful. They wanted the best for you, which, listen, you can't really ask for much more than that.
And you kind of went straight into the under-19s, and you were standing out like a sore thumb really early on. Like, there was a few injuries. You had a few bad injuries on the first season. Was it like just a struggle?
Yeah, well, to be fair, it was when I first went in. I did start well, and it was training. we were I can't really remember what we were doing at training, possession or something, and I went to kind of step in front of someone, and as I've stepped in front of someone, like my knee I could just feel my leg kept going, but my knee was meant to be straight, so I knew straight away, because I kind of sprung up in the air after I'd done it. I knew I'd done something bad, and that was about the September time, and then that was me until maybe April.
Right.
Like with just that one injury, it was just a one injury really, but that obviously kept me out for a long time, to be fair. And then I only kind of got back playing maybe the last kind of month of that season, month and a half maybe. So it was obviously frustrating, because I'd went there and I'd started kind of, I felt like I'd started well kind of with the youth team. And to be fair, Youngie and Stuart McCord actually told me that they thought I was doing well. But then you kind of get that injury, and it's just a bit of a body blow, to be fair, just because, as I say, you feel like you're making steps forward. But listen, injuries part and parcel. It's one of the things you just got to deal with. You got to go on with it.
How hard is it, like, psychologically, when you've got an injury like that, even a bigger club more than anything, because there are so many there are very little places in the team. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, how hard is it psychologically?
It's definitely hard. Do you know what I mean? It's especially probably being so young, because I was only 17 when I done the injury.
Yeah.
So you're kind of like, you're obviously new in professional kind of football world anyway. So it's kind of hard to deal with things like that. But that's, to be fair, again, where I'd kind of give Motherwell credit. They didn't really let me get down or let me get kind of deflated or anything like that. JP was a physio, and Adam Stokes as well. He was a kind of youth team physio at the time, and they obviously put me through rehab and continually kind of kept on at me to kind of keep my spirits up, and just kind of reassuring me that I would get back from my injury, and hopefully get back to the kind of the level I was at. And when I done my injury, Stephen Saunders, he actually snapped his Achilles probably within 1 or 2 weeks of me doing my knee.
Yeah.
So no, I gutted for him as well. But when I was doing my rehab, everything I was going through, I had someone there with me as well, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
He was going through his rehab of a different injury, but we both knew, like, we knew what each other was experiencing. So I think that kind of helped in a way as well. As much as, listen, I wish he obviously never got injured.
Yeah.
But I think he'd probably say the same. It was good maybe having someone there that was going through the same.
Yeah, and when you come back from the injury, are you thinking about like breaking into the first team? Are you thinking that you'll get that chance?
At first I was just try and get games, and obviously that's why at the end of that season the youth, the under 20s, under 19s it was at the time, under 19s league had just about finished.
Yeah.
But obviously the senior game, the professional games were still going, so that's why I went on loan. I think I went on loan and only got the last, I think it was only 6 games we played at Stenhousemuir the first. So that was just kind of to go and get games, basically, because obviously I had missed. It was just to kind of go and get games again, and I think that's the first thing you just think about. It's just like, am I going to be able to play again? Will I fully recovered? Will I be able to run? Will I be able to do this? Will I be able to do that? So at first, my first thought was just kind of get games again and listen, see what happens, see where it takes you.
And when you go on loan to Stenhousemuir, like, you play really well, but you just miss out in the playoffs. Like, was that quite a sore one as well? Because you'd kind of come in and just done so well.
Yeah, it was hard. Obviously, as you said, we'd kind of just missed out in the playoffs, but not that it didn't. I don't mean it didn't mean as much to me, but obviously I'd only been there, as I said, and I played 6 games, but that was probably in the space of maybe 4 weeks maximum, maybe 3-4 weeks. So I probably didn't experience as much disappointment as probably some of the other boys did. But again, it was my first time being involved maybe at the right end of the table, which hopefully it did kind of again set me up to hopefully go and do that in my future. Because obviously the year before when I'd been playing professional, we were fighting relegation. We were just trying to be above the relegation playoff. So it was different kind of atmosphere going in and playing for a team that were trying to get promoted, and which was obviously it was brilliant. And as I said, we did just miss out. I think we actually missed out in the last day. I think we had to beat Forfar, and they beat us, I think, and I actually think that kept them up. I think both of us had something to play for on the last day, and obviously we were trying to make the playoffs. They were, as I'm sure I said, I'm pretty sure if they won, they stayed up, which obviously had to beat us 2-1, I think, or 2-0.
Mm-hmm. And when you kind of go back to Motherwell, do you go back full of confidence because you get back to kind of fitness and you've played well?
Obviously because you know you've kind of, you feel yourself, you've done well, and I think I'd won the Player of the Month award or something or the Young Player of the Month award at for the league when I was at Stenhousemuir. So I knew I'd done all right. But one of the hard things for me was when I was when I was playing at Motherwell. Like that was when Motherwell were absolutely flying.
They finished second in the league.
I think they finished second that year that I was injured, because the next year they had the Champions League, the qualifiers, Champions League. So I knew I wasn't, because I had a good loan spell at Stenhousemuir, I knew I wasn't going back and going to be playing straight away or just walk into the first team. I think Tom Haitley was there at the time. He was playing right back, and I think it was something crazy about 140 or 150 or something games in a row he started for Motherwell. So I knew it wasn't kind of going to be like easy just to start playing or whatever. But I was hopeful I was going to go in and play games or get game time. But listen, I knew how hard it was going to be because Motherwell were flying.
Mm-hmm. And you said there about like Stephen Saunders as well. Like Motherwell had quite a solid backline. They'd like Stevie Hamill, Stephen Craig, and as you say, Tom Haitley, Keith Lasley. Would they all kind of show you a bit of support and kind of be good mentors?
Yeah, no, definitely. They were all kind of very supportive, and I mean, I'd still speak to Hammy and Laz just now whenever I seen them. And even kind of my second year, McFadden was in as well, which was obviously unbelievable. Just kind of training with him every day. So listen, there was a lot of good, really good pros at Motherwell the time I was there. Even likes of Tom, who was playing in my position. Tom Haitley was brilliant. Randolph, obviously the goalie, was brilliant. They had a lot of Nicky Law. There was a lot of boys that were really good with the younger boys as well, which always helped. And again, because I think they knew how much Motherwell relied on the youth system. I think the older pros kind of understood that and took a lot of the younger boys under their wing.
Mm-hmm. And you get any kind of stories from back in the day with the kind of characters in that dressing room?
And that dressing room, eventually, he was only in for a week because I think it was not long after he left Celtic. But obviously, Slaney came in and trained.
I was going to ask you about him at Ayr, but
yeah. So obviously, he was just a bit mental, to be honest with you. But there was a lot of good kind of characters at Motherwell at the time, and a lot of the boys in the first team, Higdon and stuff like that, were really good, kind of funny guys. And listen, it was a lot of the stuff's kind of just like daft stuff, but at the time when you're obviously younger and probably still a wee bit kind of wary of managers and stuff like that, and you just be scared of anything that was going on, kind of you don't like to caught up and things. Whereas some of the older or senior pros were just like, just used to it by now, you know what I mean? That was obviously my first time ever been in full time, so I didn't know how dressing rooms really worked, to be honest with you. I was used to being part time, so obviously it was kind of a big eye opener for me, kind of some of the stuff that was going on. But it was good. It was a good kind of upbringing and stuff like that. And obviously at Motherwell, the youth team get changed in the away dressing room, so we had a really good away dressing room as well. We had a lot of kind of funny boys and stuff like that in there. So. But it was really good. I really enjoyed my time there.
Who was coming through at the same time as you in the Motherwell team?
The youth team was Stephen Hetherington. played, he's now must be close to most appearances ever for Alloa. Seems like he's been there for about 6 or 7 years now, centre midfielder. Keir McDonald, who plays for Raith Rovers now.
Right.
He played quite a few first team games. To be fair, quite a few of the boys played first team when I was there. Stuart Carswell made a lot of appearances.
Yeah.
Adam Cummins made a lot of appearances, kind of first team wise. Lee Irwin, who's now at St Mirren, was kind of in our youth team as well. So we had a lot of boys, to be fair, that kind of went on and did play senior. Ross Stewart, who's he's on loan to Hearts just now from Livingston, but he was one of the goalies when I was there. So, and who else? Ewan Murray, who's Dunfermline captain.
Right.
He was one of the defenders when I was there as well. There's quite a lot of us kind of maybe not at Motherwell, but I've kind of then went on to other clubs and done really well.
Yeah, and you go back to Dumbarton and loan. How did you feel about that? Like, were you kind of gutted you were leaving?
Yeah, I was
just wanting games.
Not really, because I was. The one thing I probably wish I'd changed at Motherwell was being a bit more patient.
Right.
Obviously, because when I was 17, I was used to that. As I said to you, I was used to playing every week.
Yeah.
Like almost, as I said, every single week I was playing. So my whole week when I was younger was built up for a Saturday at 3 o'clock. And when you're playing youth teams, you're playing Monday during the day, Friday during the day, Wednesday it's not the same. Your week's all not disrupted, but you're not building towards that kind of the Saturday every week. And I kind of struggled with that. I was obviously used to, and I don't mean youth team levels you don't have to win, but I was used to being on a Saturday where you had to win. It was boys playing for, obviously, especially lower down, you go, boys aren't making that much money, but they're playing for the bonus that they get if they win the game, or they're playing for promotion bonus if they get promoted, or avoiding relegation. So I was coming from somewhere where you had to always try and win, or you had to win, to youth team level where it maybe wasn't always about winning. Obviously, you always tried to win the games, but if you didn't win, it wasn't as if, all right, it's the end of the world. Whereas, I mean, you could go to playing when I was first at Dumbarton. I mean, we lost on a Saturday, Thursday night at training. Boys are still, the world's against them because we lost a game. Whereas I didn't really find that at youth level, and I think I maybe struggled with that a wee bit just because I just felt like, I don't know. For me, it was just like all about I had to win. Whereas I don't really think that's the. It probably isn't. That's the thing. It probably isn't. Development teams are there for more than just winning. They are there to progress players and get them ready for the first team. Whereas I was obviously coming from a first team environment where I just wanted. It was just about winning.
Yeah.
And to be fair, going to Dumbarton, they were in a championship at the time, and that was obviously another step up for me. I hadn't played the championship before. It was League One with Dumbarton and Stenhousemuir. So going there and playing in the championship, playing against full-time teams every week was something I was looking forward to, and I was definitely up for it when the opportunity came.
Ian Murray was the manager at Dumbarton then. How was he?
Yeah, he was good, really good. Him and Jack Ross was working beside him.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
He was the assistant. He was a caretaker to begin with, and then became the assistant. Two of them were really, really good. But to be fair, at the time Ian Murray came in, we weren't doing great, and then we went on an unbelievable run, and we kind of beat everybody in the league over the kind of the space of 15, 20 games. You know what I mean? I think it was Morton and Thistle were going for the league that year, and I think we actually went down to Morton, and I think we beat them 3-0. So he kind of completely turned us round in a short space of time. Didn't really change many players, to be fair, but he got his winning, and it was good. The two of them were really good, him and Jack Ross.
You leave in the January for Dumbarton. Did you have an option to stay to the end of the season?
I think at first it got extended for another month, because I think the plan was always to go back and try and force my way into the Motherwell team, because obviously I only then had 6 months left, and I was like, well, I'm going to try and force my way in. I'm going to have to do it. You know what I mean, now.
Yeah.
And obviously I think then Dumbarton I think they wanted me to stay to begin with. Obviously, they extended it by another month, and I think that was almost just to give themselves time to then bring someone else in.
Right.
So it was at first it was kind of I always had in the back of my head in January I wanted to go back and listen. If I didn't force myself back into the Motherwell team, then that was fine. But I was going to kind of go there and give it a go to begin with, or to make a fist of it. But obviously it didn't happen. And then, as I said, I ended up going back to Stenhousemuir again. Towards the end of that season again.
Did you feel that Motherwell were kind of giving up on you when they sent you back to Stenhousemuir?
No, because to be honest with you, see, when I first came back from my knee injury, I knew myself I wasn't. Obviously, I had that 6-7 games at Stenhousemuir when I done really well, but from that start of the season, I wasn't. I knew I wasn't at the level I was at before I done my injury.
Yeah.
It was just taking me. It took me a lot longer than probably I'd hoped that I would get back to the same level. But I knew myself, like, you know yourself when you play games, if you think you've done well, or and I was coming away a lot of the time, and the team was doing well, but I was like, I'm not want to play, or this is not how I wanted to be playing at this stage or whatever. So, not to be fair, I didn't think Motherwell kind of gave up on me, and Motherwell, they were really good, to be fair. Stuart McCall and Kenny Black were always brilliant with me, and obviously being on loan to Dumbarton and Stenhousemuir, they trained at night, so I was still in training during the day with Motherwell. So they were always I was still in contact and still training every day. But no, I would never really. I don't think I would ever put any, not blame, but I wouldn't say it was kind of Motherwell that failed me or anything like that. I would probably put it on myself, and I just wasn't at I didn't come back to the level I wanted to right after the injury.
And how did you find out you were getting released from Motherwell?
I just spoke to Stuart McCall, and he just kind of made it clear. He just kind of said to me, he was like, "Listen, Nicky, he's like, we really like you here. I love having you at the club." But at the time, Tom Hateley was obviously still there. Again, I think Motherwell maybe finished third that year, second or third again. So he was just like, right now, you're just not going to play. And listen, I knew that. I knew I wasn't kind of, I wasn't going to be playing first games and that. And listen, I would have probably rather leave and go and play first team somewhere else than again do the same. Listen, you could have signed another year's contract and then just went out on loan again. And at the end of the season, you're just in the exact same position. Whereas, I mean, I can go and sign somewhere, be whoever I sign for, I'm there. They're going to have my best interest because it's because I'm an official player for them. So that was the kind of decision that I made, and listen, I don't regret it or anything like that. I think it was probably the right thing for me at the time.
And did you just think you were unlucky at Motherwell just with injuries and kind of Tom Hateley in front of you in the team? Like, did you just think it was an unlucky time?
Yeah, no, the first injury wasn't great for me, and as I said, it put me back probably a lot more than I would have hoped it did, or I would have wanted it to. You know what I mean? Obviously I'd signed a 2-year contract there, and I mean, each season you play roughly about 9 months. The first year I was there, I mean, 7.5 of them were I was in a physio room, so it wasn't to be fair. It was hard, but listen, I learned a lot there. Even the small time I worked with the coaches there, I learned a lot, and it only helped me as a player. To be fair, it wasn't an outcome that I would have hoped for being there. You know what I mean? I went there and played games for them, but it wasn't to be. And listen, it's no hard feelings from my side anyway. I'm kind of well aware where I was at the time and where Motherwell were at the time. You know what I mean? They were the third best team in the country, so I had to be top in my game if I wanted to be playing there, and at the time I wasn't.
And Stenhousemuir signed you permanently. It was Martin Corrigan that signed you.
Yeah.
Do you think, like you said, looking back, it was the right decision? But was there any other offers for other clubs?
I had another couple of part-time, similar to Stenhousemuir, teams that kind of offered me deals, but at the time, I mean, I'd been there on loan towards the end of that season, so I knew Martin Corrigan. I knew, obviously, he played the same position as me, and kind of a big thing was, like, I could go there and he's hopefully going to make me better. He's able to work with me and being able to work with him, who, I mean, he played probably 200-300 games in the Premier League, so I knew how good that could be for me. And listen, when they kind of made me an offer, I knew it was kind of between them or another club, a few clubs similar to them. Listen, I was always going to go back because I enjoyed my time there. It was a really good club, to be fair, when I was there.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember your first game that season?
The second season, I know when I was permanent there.
Aye.
Should I? Yeah, I got sent off.
Aye, you got sent off.
Yeah, Bobby Lynn. I couldn't deal with Bobby Lynn. Yeah, he was. I got 2 yellow cards, to be fair, wasn't it? Was it 2 yellow cards?
2 seconds yellow, yeah.
To be fair, it doesn't really count because the second one was in extra time, so it wouldn't be like a normal game. You know what I mean? If it was a normal game, it would be 10 minutes, I'd be fine. So, no, I did. Was that the very first game?
That was your debut. That was your second debut, aye.
Yeah, disaster, absolute disaster. I know Bobby Lynn was, I think it was 2 tackles on him, I think.
Aye.
When I was younger, I just couldn't, to be fair, I probably still couldn't deal with him because he's top player, to be fair to him. Someone that could have played probably a lot higher, but whatever circumstances, whatever, he stayed kind of part-time for most of his career, but especially when I was a young boy, only kind of 18 or 19 at the time, I couldn't kind of get to grips with him, to be honest with you. But I think we actually went through. We won in penalties, is that right?
Aye, you went through,
yeah. We won in penalties.
Yeah.
Aye, we went through, aye. So, listen, it wasn't all too bad. If we'd lost, then maybe Martin Corrigan could have really came for me, but we got through, so it wasn't too bad.
Mm-hmm. Another game I want to touch on, you play at Ibrox. You're kind of quite lucky that kind of Rangers were in the league, and how big is that? How big an honour was that playing in front of a stadium like that? The result you'll probably not remember very well.
Yeah, well, I remember the result very well. It was that's something you don't forget results like that. Get some games, but not. Listen, it was really hard for us kind of going to a place like that, and as you said, but it was great to kind of to play in the stadium. Like, obviously, you don't really get that opportunity. Kind of low levels to play in stadiums like that. So obviously, it was great kind of being able to go there and play. And obviously, the first time we went there, as you kind of touched on, it wasn't good for us. It was kind of hard day, to be fair. But no, listen, we not made up for it, but kind of we went there. I don't think it was too long after, actually, a couple of months later, and managed to get a draw. So
3 each, wasn't it?
3 each, yeah. So and we done really well that day. So I think the boys were kind of hurting after the first one. You know, listen, I know they were miles above us kind of financially and size of club and everything like that, but you don't want to lose kind of 8 goals. That does hurt. That's one of the losses that kind of does stick with you. So listen, we had kind of a wee bit to prove when we went there the second time. And listen, we managed to do that. Not many teams in the Premier League will go to Ibrox and get results. Never mind kind of the lower down you go. So it was a big day for us and a big result.
Mm-hmm. Who were you up against that day in that the kind of both teams?
When they were coming through the leagues, it was obviously Lee Wallace was left back, and a lot of the time it was Lewis McLeod, who was playing kind of left midfield. Fraser Aird played a couple of times against us, and I think Nicky Law was there as well. He kind of played. He liked to play off the left and kind of cut in. So, listen, it was hard. They were. I mean, they had players that were all kind of Premier League players at the time. So it was difficult. But listen, as I said, the second game was a lot better for us anyway.
Does the atmosphere scare you at a ground like that when you're kind of going there, particularly as a young boy? Does it scare you when you're going out and you see all the fans?
I wouldn't say it scares you. Actually, it was weird because obviously the year before when I was still at Motherwell, when you're a young boy at Motherwell, you have jobs to do, and I used to clean Nicky Law's boots.
Right.
So I was quite close with Nicky Law, and obviously the kind of the day we were actually playing them, the first time, the bad game for us, he actually texted me in the morning. I think it was actually Rangers tweeted or something like that, and there was a picture of the stadium with the pitch and stuff, and he tweeted me and he was like, just said something about hopefully you're looking forward to this or whatever. And obviously I was at the time, and then that was my first time playing at Ibrox. And we've kind of walked in the tunnel. Obviously, both teams walk out together. And he was actually next to me as we were walking out. And I think it's simply the best to play when they're walking out. And it's obviously very, I mean, they sing it quite loud. And I think that day was Armed Forces Day.
Right.
So it was completely full. Obviously, everyone they were all kind of singing and stuff. And I think he whispered, he kind of leaned over. He said something about, this is why you want to play football or something, this is why you do what you do, blah, blah, blah. And obviously, that, as I said, it didn't scare you going out to that kind of noise and stuff, but it does make the game so much, because you can't talk to each other. And, it's just hard. You're trying to shout over to the guy playing next to you, and you just feel like he's ignoring you, but it's no, you just literally can't hear you when they kind of, and obviously that day when we weren't very good and they were very good. I mean, the fans are backing them the whole way. You know, I mean, they were just they smelled blood that day, and their fans were ruthless. To be honest, they just wanted more and more, which obviously didn't help us.
Mm-hmm. And Scott Booth comes in. Martin Corrigan leaves, and Scott Booth comes in. What was the kind of relationship like with him?
It's only, to be fair, it's the only kind of relationship I've had with a manager that I didn't really. I didn't really get him, to be honest with you. I don't think. Well, I don't really know, because he came in and to begin with, he played me nearly every game until towards the end of that season, with about 3 or 4 games to go. I think we were actually playing Rangers at home, and obviously I'd been playing. As I said, I'd played the whole kind of season. We were only doing brilliant, but we were just outside the playoffs again. We were kind of. Rangers obviously had ran away with the league miles in front of everybody. But we still had I think we had a chance of making the playoffs, and I think it was the last game of the season or something. He didn't say anything to me at all, didn't kind of speak to me in training, didn't give me kind of any indications, and then I was just completely in the stand, and I was kind of like, I thought I'd maybe done something, or I'd said something, but I was like, I knew I hadn't, so I was like, well, don't really get it. And the boy who actually played right back that day, I think he gave a penalty away and got sent off. He was a younger boy than me, so he gave away a penalty and get sent off. So I was kind of like, I don't really know what's happened here. So the next week again, I was obviously straight back in because the boy was suspended. I think we played East Fife away and we won. And then we had 2 games left to go. And for the last 2 games, again, I was just completely in the stand. And I was like, I just didn't really know he obviously had an issue with me or a problem with me, but I don't know. It wasn't for me. I think a lot of kind of players left the club that summer, to be honest with you. I don't think many were kind of treated like me. They were completely out of the squad, but I don't think a lot of them liked the way he spoke and the way he kind of went on at times. I don't know, I just found him a bit arrogant and a bit kind of, he obviously thought he had a great playing career, to be fair to him. Like, he played a lot of big clubs, so but I don't know, I just found that he felt like he was maybe better than everyone else, which, listen, he probably was a better player than everybody else at that level, but I think he found it hard to kind of get on a good level with a lot of the players.
Mm-hmm. And you get released at the end of that season. Was that kind of the lowest point in your career?
To be fair, I was, because of what had happened in the previous probably 2 or 3 weeks. I wasn't too down about it, if you know what I mean, because obviously I knew I couldn't. There was no point in me staying there, because there was obviously something wrong with the manager. Didn't fancy me really, or there was obviously something there that he obviously wanted to go with someone else at right back, which was fine. And kind of him and Brown Ferguson was his assistant at the time. They kind of put me in, and they actually said they were like, we both spoke about it, and we both think that. We both know that we're going to regret it, but obviously we're going to go in a different direction for someone else right back next year.
Right.
It was kind of like, someone tells you that, like, oh, we'll regret it, or we don't think we're doing the right thing. Like, doesn't even really mean anything to you. It's right, well, aye, fine, you're doing it though. So, but no, listen, I kind of knew because of what happened the 3-4 weeks before the end of the season, I wasn't going to stay anyway. So I had my head round it early doors, and listen, lucky enough for me, I think it obviously paid off for me kind of big time for that summer.
What did you think the kind of future held for you when you left Stenhousemuir? Like, what was it?
Well,
you think you would get another job? Or?
Yeah, I came off that season, and as I say, I don't think I was back to the level I was when I signed for Motherwell, but I felt like I was getting there. I felt like I had a decent enough season. I didn't think I had a great season, but I felt like I was doing all right. And again, I'd played a lot of games. Like, it was only kind of last 3 or 4 games of the season that I missed. He took me out, so I knew I'd played a lot of games. And listen, I was still confident I would have got another contract, another club somewhere. But it's kind of, it was just, listen, it was not lucky, but as I said, it kind of, for me, I think it worked out a lot better for me than it did for Stenhousemuir, to be fair, because after that, kind of, I went to, obviously a club I think was a lot bigger than Stenhousemuir. Obviously they kind of, I think they got relegated the next season, to be fair.
Yeah. The man that gives you a chance, you'll probably hold him in the highest regard, but Mark Roberts gives you a chance and signs you for United. How did that kind of come about?
I think it actually came about through Kevin McKinlay.
Right.
Because Kevin McKinlay was the left back at Stenhousemuir when I was obviously there, and Keg signed for them. He'd signed a pre-contract with them to go there in the summer. And obviously he'd been in it, well, after he signed and stuff, he'd been speaking to the manager, blah, blah, and obviously they knew, like, Mark Roberts knew who I was because we played against him that season, to be fair. We actually played against them right towards the end of the season, down in there, and we actually beat them. I think we had to beat them to kind of keep the playoff hopes for us alive. It was actually between the two of us to see who was going to get the playoffs, us and Ayr, the previous season. And I think Ayr just sneaked it in the end, and we kind of we lost it on the last day. But so he knew, like, obviously Mark Roberts knew who I was, and then he just kind of been speaking to Kevin McKinlay and was just talking about what they needed for that, what players wise they were going to need for that season, and who was staying, who was going. And I get on really well with Kev. And I think Mark Roberts obviously touched on. He said, "Listen, I need to bring another right back in." And it was, I think Kev was the one that kind of said straight to him straight away. He's like, "Well, I know Nicky's not happy and he's not going to sign again. He's not going to stay there." He's like 100% kind of go for him. So and then obviously Mark Roberts kind of maybe then went down homework and stuff like that on me. And then perfect. I was kind of, as I said, I think it worked out brilliant for me. I mean, perfect for me. I kind of went to a bigger club than what I was at, and obviously because under 23, if they'd offered me a contract, they would have had to have someone who would have had to have paid money. But they didn't. And then, listen, as I said, it worked out perfect.
Just describe Mark Roberts. He's been on the show, but just describe what he's like as a human being.
Just like, wow. To be fair, just a really funny guy. He's absolutely ruthless. There's no kind of no hiding place with him. And that was him as a manager. I think if I'd been with him as a player, I think he would have even been even more. He was in the heart of everything in the dressing room. I can imagine as a player, and obviously as a manager, he couldn't completely do that because, listen, he was the manager. He couldn't still or act or be as he was as a player. But you could still see at times when he done stuff, you're just like, if you were a player, I can just imagine how many times worse you would have took this. Or you know, what I mean, he kind of mellowed. I think he'd done a few things. And then that was him. Whereas if he was a player, you can just imagine how he'd have just kept going and going and going. So, but no, he was brilliant. To be fair, obviously I've got kind of can't thank him enough for taking the chance on me. Yeah.
You got a story about just what it was like?
Mark Roberts. We had the first time I'd went there. I actually hadn't signed, and we went down to Inverclyde for like I think it was like 3 or 4 days, like kind of training wise, and we went in there 3 or 4 days training wise, and then we actually played Kilmarnock, funny enough, in a pre-season game. It was like a closed door game.
Yeah.
At the place it was in. I say Inverclyde, is that Largs?
Aye, Largs, yeah. That's about Largs.
Kind of UEFA coaching licenses and stuff. So we were there and we were staying there, and then after the game on the Saturday, we kind of all the boys kind of went out, and it cost me money. I hadn't actually even signed for the club, and let's just say it cost me 250 quid. So I think I actually basically paid for my own contract. It cost me 250 quid for repair, which wasn't ideal. I'm not going into details of what happened, but it was definitely Mark Roberts led, and he was the manager at the time.
Brilliant. It's a pretty good start to that season. That first season, you made your debut against Clyde, and you won your first 3 games in the league. But after that, results don't go very well. What was kind of going on? Like, what do you think was happening?
No, not really sure, because as you said, we started really, really well, and I think Morton were in the league that year, obviously full time, and that was the first game of the season. We beat them at home, and as you said, then went and won the next 2, and we started flying. We kind of started, everyone was playing well, and we looked like we were going to really kick on and have a right good season, to be honest with you. And listen, it's probably quite frustrating, because I think in the end, you know, I mean, we should have, and we could have had a really good season. I think going into the last day of that season, there was three teams could have won the league, so nobody like ran away with it or anything like that. It was definitely open for someone to go and win it, really.
Yeah.
And I still think with the players we had, we should have done a lot better, and we really should have kind of pushed on. Listen, we should have been in amongst the top end of that table that year. There's no doubt about it. With the players we had, we should have been, but for whatever reason, it just didn't. I don't know. It didn't work out for us the way we wanted to, and probably the way it should have.
Mm-hmm. And kind of results, Mark pays the price and loses his job. Like, were you how sad were you to see him go?
Yeah, listen, I was gutty, because as I said, he was the manager that kind of took me there. And kind of with the experience maybe that I'd had now in the game, I kind of knew, listen, it just takes a new manager to come in, doesn't like you, and you're done. Doesn't matter how maybe well you've done up until that point, or how well you've done under the previous manager. If the next one comes in and doesn't like you, listen, you could be gone. And that's just the way football is. It can be ruthless. It's a cutthroat business. So it was obviously kind of a bit of worry that, listen, who's going to come in instead. But listen, I was just kind of gutted, because as I said, I got on really well with going to call him the gaffer there, but I got really on really well with Marco, and you just you don't want to see anyone lose their job, you know what I mean? Right. Especially because maybe it kind of started turning for him towards the end in terms of with the fans and stuff, and obviously he was an unbelievable player for Ayr United, and I think that kind of probably his managerial spell maybe soured that a wee bit, so he kind of felt a wee bit kind of sorry as well, you know what I mean? Because he had done so well for the club for a good number of years, you know what I mean? Yeah.
But was he kind of the man? Would you say he was the man who kind of got your career back on track?
Oh, definitely, aye, definitely. Because listen, as I said, when I left, could have fell out the game, and went and played maybe junior. Listen, nothing wrong with going to play junior, or but that's where I could have maybe potentially found myself. But listen, he took a major chance on me, and listen, I couldn't thank him enough. As I said, if he never done that, I could have listen, I don't know where I could have ended up, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Ian McCall's the man who gets the job. Were you excited, his track record, to work with him?
I was kind of, I wouldn't say I was surprised at first, but obviously you hear a lot of talk who's meant to be coming in and who's favourite for the job, who's this, who's that.
Yeah.
I don't think he was mentioned at all.
No.
I don't think there was anyone even kind of rumouring him that he was going to come in, or I think it was maybe Billy Stark was kind of at the time, was everyone was saying apparently he was going to be the guy coming in. But obviously he came out, as I said, it came out of nowhere that he'd got the job, and as I said, your first thing is you just I hope he likes me, and that's just what it is. And obviously a few of the boys that were there had played under him before, so they kind of gave you no heads up, but kind of indication of how it was going to go, or how he was going to be. So listen, of course, after the first initial shock, or the first initial I hope he really likes me, you're like, well, you're excited to see kind of to work with him, and the kind of obviously the coaches he brought in as well. You're excited to see how he reacts to you and how you react to him.
Mm-hmm. And how important were kind of your teammates in that team? Like, who were kind of the big kind of big players that were in the team with you? Like Brian Gilmore's the one that stands out to me, just how good a player he was. Yeah,
Gilly was really good for us. Played a lot of positions for us as well across the midfield. Obviously, when I first went, Scotty McLaughlin was the captain, who had a kind of really good career down at Ayr. Obviously, John Paul McGovern, a good career kind of down south, and then obviously came back up to us towards the end. And Peter Murphy was brilliant. I think I'd love to have played with Murph in his prime, because obviously he was getting towards the end of his career when he was with us. But still, he had the ability for being a centre half. He was no a centre half I'd been used to playing with before, if you know what I mean. He was just so composed on the ball, every time. I seen him. We played away to Morton one of the games. I'm trying to think, it was the first year, maybe the second year there. Played away there, and he had a bad problem with his shoulder, and he couldn't actually run with it normal. So he had one of his arms tucked in his strip, and played the full game. And you probably couldn't have said anyone in the park was any better than him that day. And he was, as I said, he's playing with one arm and a kind of under his in his strip, one arm out free, and he was just unbelievable. So we had a lot of kind of big experienced players at the time. That year, obviously, Craig Beattie as well kind of came in the next season, towards the end of that season. So listen, we had a lot of big players and a lot of good young players as well. Obviously, Robbie and Forrest were kind of had made a lot of appearances by that point, and were kind of starting to kick on in their career.
Mm-hmm. And you finished 8th that season. Were you just glad to get that season by and start again?
Yeah, because obviously that came down to the last day. That was, I think it was us, Stirling maybe and Stenny, but I think Stirling had went. I think they had already gone.
Mm-hmm.
And the last day of the season, we played Forfar. We played away to Forfar, and Forfar won. They could have won the league. That was it. It was them, Morton and Stranraer, I think, went into the last day, and they could have all won it. And we obviously went away to Forfar knowing we had to win probably to avoid the playoffs. And it wasn't as if they had nothing to play for. You know what I mean? They were playing to win the league. So obviously it was kind of, as you said, it was more just a relief when you won that game, just to kind of, let's just get this season finished and just start looking ahead to next year and see where we can kind of improve, and can we do, obviously we had to do a lot better. You know what I mean? United shouldn't be fighting to stay in League One. That's no size of club and history, and that's not where that club should be. So it was more a kind of probably, as you said, a relief just to stay up and just get that season over and done with.
Mm-hmm. Over the summer though, you get named the club captain. How big an honour was that?
No, it was massive because even the boys that were still at the club who had maybe been there for a few years before me, and obviously the signings that the manager had started making.
Mm-hmm.
We obviously brought in Paddy Boyle from Airdrie, who at the time was Airdrie's captain. So listen, he could have and Paddy had obviously worked with him before, so it could have easily have been kind of him. Obviously, as you've mentioned, Gilly was already there.
Yeah.
He'd been at the club for quite a while. Peter Murphy, who was captain of Carlisle for 7-8 years, you know what I mean? So there was a lot of boys that could have kind of been picked over me. So again, it was one of them, the manager just shown faith in you and picking you as the one that he obviously wanted to captain the side. So it was a major, massive honour for me, and something that I kind of relished. And listen, we ended up doing all right that year, to be fair. So I'd like to think it was kind of a good appointment on his behalf.
Mm-hmm. The first game of that season is a 3-0 defeat to Albion, but after that you scored 15 games unbeaten. What did Ian McCall do that season just to kind of change and go on that wee run?
Well, me and Murray were both suspended that Albion game, so we never played. So I'm not taking any part in losing 3-0 to Albion of the season. It took us kind of. Obviously, the manager did sign a lot of new players in that kind of window. So in the summer, so it did take us a while to kind of to get going and gel as a team. But listen, once we got up and running, I think we were good. We done really well. Obviously, didn't look brilliant to start with. As I said, obviously, as you said, losing 3-0 in your first game is kind of. Your first thoughts no again, we're not going to be down struggling again to stay up, but listen, we managed to definitely turn it around.
Was he a good manager, Ian McCall?
Yeah, listen, he was brilliant for me. He kind of filled me full of confidence and probably got me, as I say, got me playing the best kind of I'd played for 5-6 years. You know what I mean? I was I felt like I was kind of back to playing at a good level. I felt like I was doing well, and obviously a lot of that was to do with the kind of confidence he'd put in me and given me to go and do that. So he was, as I said, he was brilliant for me, and can't thank him enough as well.
Mm-hmm. And you do well that season. You qualified for the playoffs, and the game that will probably stick out was the games against Peterhead. You won 4-1 away from home, and you scored in the semi-final of the playoff leg. How good a feeling was that to get into the final?
No, it was brilliant. I think I scored 3 goals that year, and all 3 were against Peterhead.
Really?
I don't know, it's one of those things. All headers from corners against Peterhead in the exact same season. Don't really know why, but no, it was. Listen, it was brilliant. We obviously knew for a while, I'm sure, because Dunfermline had won the league quite early on, or not early on. They knew they were going to win it. And I'm pretty sure us and Peterhead knew we were going to play each other, second and third, and it was just a kind of case of whoever finishes second has got home advantage the second leg. Whoever finishes third obviously doesn't. Mm-hmm. So we actually played them. I think we played them the second last game of the season or something, and we won up there, which meant we were going to be we'd have home advantage the second leg. So we knew kind of going up there the first time. It was obviously midweek. You go up on the Tuesday, so we knew going up there that if we can get a decent enough result, getting back to our place, and we fancy our chances at Somerset. Yeah. I don't even think the manager could have imagined kind of going up there and winning by the scoreline that we did. It just took a lot of probably pressure off us coming to the home game in the second leg, which wasn't ideal because they scored straight away in the second leg. But we done enough over the 2 games, to be fair, to kind of seeing us through comfortable. But they were obviously, Peterhead were a good team at that time. Yeah. Really good team, a lot of good players. So over the 2 legs to win by the margin we won by gave us a lot of confidence going into the final.
Mm-hmm. Final against Dunra. Yeah. First leg, 95. You score a 95th minute equaliser to get a draw, and then you won the second leg in penalties. Just talking through the memories of they 2 games.
Those 2 games, not a lot, because honestly, it was probably our 2 worst performances that season by a mile. Especially the first game. The first game was robbery. Like, getting a draw down there was absolute robbery.
Right.
They were over the 2 legs. Stranraer were much better than us. Over the season, we were the better team.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think there's any doubt about that. But over those 2 games, Stranraer were better than us. They were. We just hung in there, especially at their place. We hung in there, and Doc, I'm sure it was his left foot volley in the edge of the box. Well, as you said, 95th minute to get us a draw, and as much as obviously second leg we didn't play well, or we didn't kind of get a reaction from the last minute goal, but I think looking back at the reaction is maybe after that game, I think the Stranraer boys knew how good a chance they had in that first game. Like, I think they could have killed the game. They could have not got promoted, but they could have almost been there in that first game. And I think us being so bad and equalising that kind of last minute, I think it took a lot out of Stranraer, to be honest with you. And even in the second leg, I would have still said they were probably the better team, but I just think when it got to penalties and stuff like that, with the way the 2 games had went and how poor we had been, I just thought, listen, it was going to be our kind of a bit of luck, or it was kind of luck was on our side, definitely, kind of over the 2 games. And Big Greg managed to pull off 3 saves in the first 3 penalties. So listen, it was after that, I've got better memories of after the 2 games than of the 2 games, because there wasn't, especially for us, there wasn't much to shout about.
Mm-hmm. And the season after, like, you move up to the Championship, how did you think you were going to find the step up?
Well, obviously, I played it with Dumbarton a few years before, and to be fair, I was looking forward to it, because we had done it. We had done well the season before. We had some kind of good players, and obviously the players the manager brought in during the summer, you were kind of like, we've got a kind of a good side here again. Mm-hmm. We could maybe kind of go here and do all right, but just for whatever kind of reason that year, it just didn't really work out for us. A lot of the time we didn't really get that wee bit of luck that you kind of needed, because obviously we stayed part-time, and we were kind of, I think us and Dumbarton were the 2 teams that year were part-time, and they obviously coped with it a lot better than we did. We kind of struggled with competing with, and it was just a bit kind of disappointing, because I think we should have done better than we did, to be fair.
Mm-hmm. And you played 48 games that season. Like, how did you just feel you were getting better and better each time you were playing? Like, you just feel you were just
it was a weird one, because I didn't, obviously we weren't getting good results, but I felt like I was doing well. Like, I felt like I was still playing well, if you know what I mean, even though the team maybe wasn't. So I was and I was enjoying it. You know what I mean, I was enjoying being captain, and enjoyed the responsibility that the kind of manager put on me. So, and as I said, because we had good players, I always kind of felt that season we would always kind of turn it round, if you know what I mean. We would always get out of it. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I think that year, if St Mirren hadn't appointed Jack Ross, then we would have stayed up. I mean, they appointed Jack Ross, and I think Hibs won it that year. Mm-hmm. But after January, St Mirren, had the most points, biggest points tally in the league, even though Hibs went on to win it. You know what I mean? From January onwards, they got more points than anyone. So that obviously made it a lot harder. You know what I mean? You've got the team at the bottom who's chasing everyone on form with the same form as the team that wins it. So if he never had went there that year, I think we would have stayed up. But listen, I still think we should have done better ourselves. I think we had players that could have kept us up, but listen, it wasn't to be. It was frustrating.
Mm-hmm. And when that's happening, your contract, it was your contract kind of up that season.
Yeah, it was up at the end of that season. That was my contract up, because every year I was at Ayr, I just signed 1 year extension, to be fair. So my contract was up at the end of the season. It was up at kind of that summer at the end of the season.
Mm-hmm. And were you kind of linked with any other clubs, or was it just Walsall?
To be fair, I'd actually just said that he was the reason that kept St Mirren up, but I went into St Mirren. I spoke to St Mirren,
right?
And to be fair, I spoke to St Mirren. I spoke to Ray McKinnon at Dundee United.
Okay.
I spoke to him. To be fair, I spoke to him before the end of the season. I spoke to St Mirren after the end of the season, and I know there was a Premier League team, to be fair, but I don't think I wouldn't have went there from Ayr United. So you probably guess who that is yourself. But then the thing with Walsall came up, and listen, it was just something different. I wanted to kind of go and not many people can maybe get the opportunity to go down and try England, and it was definitely something I kind of wanted to try and do. So listen, when that came up, I was kind of I was all for that, and it was something I kind of, as I said, I jumped at, to be fair, when they offered.
And you met your current fiance while you were at Ayr. Like, how did they feel about how did the family feel about moving down south?
They were, to be fair, they were like brand new. They were all for it, to be honest with you. I think kind of they recognised how kind of maybe big an opportunity it could have been for me. To go down, and it might, one of those things, it might not have, the chance might not never have come up again. And I think my partner was kind of she was very kind of supportive of me, and she kind of realised, if you don't want to kind of look back and maybe have any regrets about it, and kind of say, what if I did go down, or could everything been different? So I've got kind of, I've got a lot of thanks to them as well, because they kind of took a big chance down with me as well. So, but no, it was once I get the okay off the missus, and that was it. That was me sorted.
Brilliant. Who signed you for Walsall?
Manager was called John Whitney,
right?
Who had been at the club for, I think he'd been there for 10, 12 years, to be fair, before, just different role from player, and then any different roles kind of in the backroom staff, to then becoming the manager. So he took me down there, kind of signed 2 years down there. That summer, that's the contract I signed.
What was it kind of standard like?
It was good, to be fair. Listen, League One, especially, to be fair, probably this year more than ever, but even when I was there, some of the size of the clubs in League One are massive, to be honest. Like Sunderland, Portsmouth, Charlton were obviously in it to begin with, Bolton were in it. So some of the clubs are like massive clubs, especially probably for, I think a lot's probably similar to maybe when Rangers coming through divisions here, having likes to Sunderland in League One, you know what I mean, who a couple of seasons before were, Premier League teams. They obviously got back-to-back relegations, so few kind of big clubs, and standard was good, to be honest with you. It was just different. The amount of games, it's just hard. It was really, physically, it's a lot harder down south. That was the biggest thing I found, just physically having to. Most weeks down there, you're Saturday, Tuesday. Obviously, an extra 10 league games every season, which they have to fit in midweek, and then you've got all the cups and that as well to fit in. So the standard was good, but it was just physically, it's hard and a lot of travelling, to be fair.
And the first season, you finished 19th. Like, how did you enjoy your first season down there?
First season, really enjoyed it to begin with, and then the manager kind of took me out, didn't play for a wee bit, for a couple of months, and then got myself back in the team and really enjoyed it, to be fair, towards the end. As I said, to be fair, Walsall, like, being in League One, as I said, with them, some of the big teams that are in it, Walsall being in League One they're doing well to stay in that league every year. You know what I mean? So we knew it was an achievement to kind of to stay up that season. We obviously done it kind of towards the end, which was which was kind of made it even sweeter. You know what I mean? We kind of done it almost last day kind of scenario again. So it was really good, to be fair, the first season. To be fair, I enjoyed both my years down there. Obviously, the second year didn't go as well kind of for the team as we wanted, but kind of enjoyed both my seasons.
Just before we touch on kind of the last season, how did you look back on your time at Ayr United?
My time at Ayr, listen, you've kind of touched on it about Mark Roberts, but the club as a whole they got my career back on track, because as I said, without them I could have dropped out the professional ranks or the professional game. So a lot of kind of good memories there on and kind of off the park, where kind of obviously with the getting promoted and stuff. And listen, I've got a few of my best pals now are through Ayr United. Do you know what I mean? Obviously Robbie and Forrest, who probably two of my best pals now, just kind of in general in life. Obviously came from being there. Slaney's one of my best pals. Came from being at Ayr United. So no, I made a lot of kind of good memories, good friends, and listen, I would quite happily, hopefully, end up back there one day.
Brilliant. You again, you got a Paul Slane story.
Slaney story. Yeah, well, to be fair, I don't know if anyone that kind of listens to the podcast and that would have probably heard them. And obviously, one of the times we were down in Newcastle, he just disappeared. It was a Christmas night out, and he just kind of disappeared. Didn't know where he was. Nobody heard from him. Whatever, blah blah. Came back, and he just had obviously we were all fancy dressed anyway. We made it worse, but he obviously had the hair still on the sides, and just had nothing. Like circle around the top of his head. He had almost similar to me now, actually, with my hairline, but a big circle, just nothing there, and just the hair on the sides. And obviously he was absolutely steaming by this point. So he was looking as if what's happened to you? And he kind of looked back at you as if he didn't probably really understand what had happened to him either, to be honest with you. But to be fair, there's so many about Slaney. To be fair, everything he does is just so harmless. He just wants to have a laugh the whole time. And listen, I think a lot of people maybe take him probably wrong, kind of take it the wrong way. But as I said, everything he does is harmless, and he's just funny guy, really funny guy.
Brilliant. Your second season at Walsall, your last season, you get back in the team, you play every week, you have a really good second season. You score your first goal for Walsall against Coventry in the FA Cup. Remember that goal?
Yeah.
How did it feel?
Yeah. No, it was brilliant, to be fair. Obviously, that's kind of localish derby down there. It's probably one of the closest teams to Walsall. And obviously, we started that game brilliant. We went 2-0 up within 5-10 minutes. They kind of paid it back to go 2-2. And when they actually scored the second goal, I think it was about 25-20 minutes to go. All the fans kind of ran on the park. They kind of, because at Walsall, Walsall gave them gave Coventry 2 stands, and Walsall obviously took the other 2 stands. So there was about 6,000 or 7,000, to be fair, Coventry fans there. Loads of them had ran on the park, kind of, because they'd obviously got themselves back in the game, got it from 2-0 to 2-2. Mm-hmm. And then obviously scoring kind of with about 5-10 minutes to go was great. It was kind of, as you said, my first goal for the club, and kind of meant quite a lot to me off the park as well. I'd obviously down there, I'd kind of got a really good bond. One of the kind of families that was a Walsall, they were all fans of Walsall, and one of the kind of their kids was really kind of sick. He wasn't really well, and it was actually the first game after he passed away. It was the first game after that, and as I said, I hadn't scored because I didn't score my last year at Ayr, so I hadn't scored in 2.5-3 years. I'd actually never scored with my feet. I think my previous goals were all headers from corners. So it was kind of a special moment for that as well. And his family were all actually at the game because they done during the game. Obviously, they were a big kind of Walsall supported kind of family. So during the game and that, there was a minute's applause and stuff during the game for it. Was obviously just passed. So when I'd scored, I knew his uncle and his granddad were behind the goal, but I couldn't see. I looked for them after I'd scored to kind of celebrate, but I couldn't really see them. But I seen them after, and kind of it was a kind of really emotional day. So no, it was a massive goal for the club on the park and kind of off the park as well for me.
Brilliant, great. Unfortunately, you got relegated that season. Like how disappointing was that?
Yeah, it was just because it came to the last day as well, which wasn't ideal, and we played Shrewsbury away, which that is the big kind of derby for Walsall. The two of them, I don't think they kind of like each other, so it wasn't great. Kind of listen, it's never good getting relegated, but I mean, if you could give me every team in the league to play, if we were going to get relegated, they would have been the last team. I mean, you'd have wanted to play against. But listen, we had to win, get into the last day, and hope 2 or 3 results went our way as well. And obviously we drew the game, but listen, results kind of went against us elsewhere, so we wouldn't have, even if we'd won, we wouldn't have stayed up. So listen, it was disappointing. It's never nice to be relegated. It's your summer and that's kind of not ruined, but it's in the back of your mind kind of throughout the whole summer. You just kind of want the next season just to start straight away, just to try and forget about it.
Mm-hmm. But how do you look back on your time at Walsall, the 2 seasons you spent there?
I really enjoyed it. To be fair, I got to play. Obviously, you go down and play in England. I played at a lot of stadiums that I would have never played against. A lot of teams that I would have never played against, and a lot of good experiences. To be fair, listen, obviously there was a few bad ones as well, kind of culminating in the relegation, but made a lot of kind of good friends. As I said, a lot of different grounds that I would have never played at, and even though I never played for 2 months in the first season, you still, because how many games there is down there, you still play a lot of football. You know what I mean? I think I never played for 2 or 3 months when I was in my first year, and at the end of that year, I'd still played 36 games, which is just as if you'd played every week up here. So kind of shows you the difference in terms of the amount of games you play. So no, I really enjoyed it, and listen, I wouldn't kind of change it going back down there when I did.
Mm-hmm. And was it always a plan to come back up the road?
To be fair, it wasn't really. I was never kind of, when I was down there, I was no in any rush to come back up or anything like that. And listen, I had a couple of offers to stay down there. Right. Just when Livingston came up, and kind of the fact I hadn't played in the Premier League up here was a kind of big factor. Obviously, Livingston doing so well the year before was a massive factor as well. You know what I mean? I hadn't. Obviously, I kind of kept an eye on what was happening in the Premier League and stuff up here, and kind of seen how well they done. I think they finished 5th. So I know it's finished 8th, but you know what I mean, for the first season up, it was great. So no, it was never kind of the plan to jump back up, but when Livingston when that offer came up, then it was something kind of made sense to me and to get kind of the whole family as well.
Mm-hmm. And Gary Holt brings you in. What was your first impression of Gary?
Yeah, it was really, really good. The whole coaching staff at Livingston are really good. They kind of work really, really, really well together. Make it very clear on what they expect and what the standards are, which as a player, that's all you can ask, kind of knowing where you stand all the time. So no, it was really good. And obviously we kind of got off to a good start that summer or that season, which helps kind of bedding in yourself in. You know what I mean? If you start off with a few bad results, then it can be harder. But we started really well, so I think that made it a wee bit easier.
Mm-hmm. And your debut was against your former club here. How was that?
Yeah.
How were you received by their fans?
Yeah, I think I was all right. I think I got a good reception. I think Robbie Crawford got not as good as me. Why was that?
Why was that? Why was that?
I'm only joking. Right. We both done well for there, I think. So I think the fans kind of appreciated that, and listen, it was just the first time any of us had played against Ayr. Obviously, that was Robbie's only club before he played for Livingston. Obviously, me being kind of down south for the last 2 years and then coming back up, your first game just kind of happened to be against Ayr. So no, it was good, and listen, good to kind of see kind of a few old faces and that as well. Obviously, the manager was still in charge at the time, and playing against Forest and stuff like that it was good, to be fair. And listen, we won, so it made it that wee bit sweeter.
The big game for that season was a 2-0 win against Celtic. How good a game was that? Because I remember you played really well that day.
Yeah, no, it was brilliant, and that was the first time I'd ever played Celtic. I'd obviously played Rangers kind of because they were coming through the leagues, but I'd never played Celtic, to be honest with you. So no, it was obviously a massive result for us because we were actually not on a good run, to be fair. The games either side of it, we actually hadn't done too well, but listen, it was a massive win, and I think at the time we were the first team to kind of stop them scoring that season, and listen, you don't really get many chances to kind of beat Celtic or Rangers, to be honest with you. So the fact that we managed to do that, it was great. It was a great result for the club. I think maybe the first time we'd beat them. So it was a massive result.
Who are the kind of characters in the dressing room? And it's a really good dressing room, I take it.
Yeah, it's very good. And just in terms of there's no, like, everyone's very like down to earth. The coaching staff and to be fair, the coaching staff and the players, they don't let anyone come in with a big ego or you know what I mean, if you do show signs of that, then you're just you're brought right back down to earth, kind of either by the coaching staff or the players on their own, you know what I mean? And both years I've been at Livingston, we've had kind of really good dressing rooms. I was maybe lucky coming in that, as I said, Robbie was probably one of my best mates, and just happened to sign at the same time. So I was going in on the first day knowing him, and then listen, I'd played against most of the boys that were all there as well, so they all kind of made you feel really welcoming, and it was good. It was really good dressing room.
And you got a bad injury in October, and then you're out till March. Like, how bad was it sitting in the sidelines in your first season?
It was difficult, just because obviously it was good because I could see the boys were doing well, and the club was kind of moving forward, and had a great season. To be fair, I think last year was club's second. I think it's the second best ever league position that they've finished. So it was great to kind of see the boys doing so well. But obviously in the back of your mind, you feel like I'm not really part of this. But listen, it ended because of the way kind of everything happened and stuff like that. I still I played a third of the season, so listen, you do still feel at the end of the season. I did kind of feel part of it again. Obviously, getting back, playing one game, and then the season kind of gets stopped was a bit of a blow for me and blow for everyone, to be fair. But listen, I managed to get myself back fit enough to play one game, so that was kind of a wee thing ticked off for me, and I could just concentrate on the next season, knowing that I was fine and I could play games in.
And obviously the coronavirus stops the season. Like, what was how did you kind of hear that was happening? Like, how did you feel the league had been cancelled?
To be fair, we were just training one day, and can't remember. I think we were meant to be playing gearing up to play Hearts,
right.
And we just stopped training. I think it was a Tuesday or a Thursday.
I think it was a Thursday.
We get called in, kind of management team just called us in and just said, listen, just had word for the next however long it was going to be. We're not training. There's no. To be fair, at first we didn't actually know what was happening, if we were able to train or we weren't. So we just knew, listen, the game's definitely off. We've said however long it's going to be, next couple of weeks or something. There's not going to be any games. But I think, to be fair, similar to now, I think everything's almost just week to week just now. The game is, you know what I mean? You can also be chances of games not getting played and stuff like that if teams have got positive tests. So No, it was a bit frustrating for me, as I said, just because I'd got back that one game. You kind of that's you. You're kind of like, let's kind of kick on the last 7 or 8 games, whatever it was left. Try and get as many games as I can, and that will hopefully put me in a good position for next year to kick on. Listen, it wasn't to be. Listen, there's a lot worse happening now than the season no finishing. So I'm not going to complain about it.
Mm-hmm. The season, you kind of get the season's starting back up again, but Livingston lose. I'm just going to touch on one player. Livingston lose Lyndon Dykes. How big a blow was he? But how glad were you that he'd got his big move?
Oh, like your first thing is I don't mean you don't think about the club, but the first thing is you do think about him, and you know how hard he's had to work. And obviously similar to me in terms of coming from like the lower divisions in Scotland. Someone taking a chance on him, and him just kind of working hard to get kind of where he was. And obviously, because at first when the season finished, I mean, I think he would have been close to getting called up international wise. There, he's managed to get it now, which is brilliant for him as well. But
could you always see that with him? Could you always see?
No, your first go there. International wise, I think you just knew how well he was doing, and I think a lot of managers or scouts and stuff like that probably judge it on how you do against Celtic and Rangers, and especially Celtic. He gave Celtic a torrid time every time he played them. So, and that was, that's the top that you judge yourself on in Scotland, especially the last few years. Is if someone's doing all right against Celtic, then they're probably not too bad. So listen, we knew how well he could be, and obviously he's went down south to QPR, and he started the season great down there. He's scored a couple of goals, managed to score a couple of goals for Scotland as well. So no, as I said, your first reaction is you're buzzing for him. Second reaction is kind of what are we going to do now? But listen, it just gives the club or gives other players opportunities to kind of step up and kind of take over from the role he had. He had a massive part to play last season, but it's up to someone else now and up to the rest of us to kind of try and keep the form going that we showed just without him being there.
Mm-hmm. And just I want to touch on quickly, there's a lot of criticism about the plastic pitches, particularly at Livingston. But how do you feel playing in it every week? How do you get used to it?
Yeah, I think, obviously we train on it every day as well, so you definitely do kind of get used to it. And listen, you just know every time that you play on it, it's going to play the exact same way. Obviously, before this, we touched on it earlier. Listen, I would always be probably for a good grass park is the best you can play on.
Right.
But we touched kind of before we came on about obviously the Rangers game tonight. The way that pitch played towards the end had a big impact on the game. Yeah. Whereas where we play, listen, that it doesn't get affected by the weather. The weather could be anything. The pitch is going to play the same. Whereas obviously in that game tonight, the kind of ball would stop rolling. Boys were trying to pass it, and it just stopped dead. So listen, there's always going to be people who are not going to be happy with playing on astral pitches, and they maybe think everyone in the Premier League should be grass or whatever it is. But listen, the club have decided that's the best way forward for them. Kind of don't know if it's financially or whatever the reasons are, but if that's the way the club go, and I think you're seeing more and more of it now. More and more clubs are doing it. And I think there's maybe 3 or 4 now in the Premier League have all got it. So I don't think it's something that's going to change anytime soon. I think if anything, you'll see more teams kind of going towards an astral surface.
Definitely. Just again, I just want to touch on what's the kind of hopes for this season? Is it always just to stay up?
I think at the start of the season, see unless you're Celtic, Rangers, probably Aberdeen or Hibs. I think everyone else at the start of the season, you just want to get to that kind of maybe that points tally that you think will be enough to avoid you from the playoffs, relegation. And once you get to that points tally, that's when you start trying to kick on. I think for us, as difficult as it will be just to try and try and better last year. And listen, we know how hard it's going to be to finish 5th again. Obviously, with Hibs looking like they're having a much better season than they did last year. Everyone else it looks like they're kind of improved as well. So we know how hard it is, to be honest with you. But listen, we just kind of got to look at trying to catch points tally that we got last year. And if we do that, we know that we'll have a good season.
Brilliant. Are you all right closing with some quick fire questions?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Out of your whole career, who would you say was the best player you ever played with?
Played with? I'll go with Forrest. I think Alan Forrest will be. I think he's got the potential to kick on again, to be fair. Hopefully with Livingston. But I think Forrest will be. Or Alan Troutman. Alan Troutman was unbelievable.
Was he?
Yeah, really, really good. Really good player.
Brilliant.
There's quite a few. I could have named so many there.
I know. Who would you say was the best player you played against?
I felt like I was right next to him, but I was so far away from ever getting the ball. It was unbelievable.
Who was that?
Jack Grealish, sorry.
All right, okay.
He's just, as I said, you could have been so close to him, like you could touch him with your arm, but you were just miles away from ever being able to get the ball. His control was just incredible. And to be fair, the day we played Aston Villa pre-season, Walsall, and John Terry, to be fair, played that day as well, but I can't really say him because I never really came up against him. He beat me in the air from a free kick, but that was as close as I got to him.
Favourite away ground?
Portsmouth.
Was it?
Fratton Park. We played, to be fair, I was lucky enough, we played them there during the day on a Saturday, and then the second season was a nighttime game, and the nighttime game was just unbelievable. Like floodlights and stuff like that. Obviously down there, it's still, like from the Saturday to the Tuesday, you still get exact same full house. Like, doesn't matter when they play, the ground's always full. Atmosphere was unbelievable. Really, really good. And both games we played down there were really good games. So I'll say I've really, really enjoyed Portsmouth.
Brilliant. Interesting fact about yourself that nobody will know.
Oh, nobody will know. We had to actually do this the other day at Livingston. We had a psychiatrist. Someone came in and talked to us like kind of about the mental side of the game, and this was one of the things we had to do. So I was going with the same one. I've got a brace from one of my knee injuries. So I've got a brace in my knee. I don't know how everyone knows that.
Nice. Favourite film?
Oh, I'm terrible. Films. I'll just go Step Brothers because I don't like scary films or anything like that. I'm quite jumpy and stuff like that. So it has to be like a funny or something. I like the first Hangover actually. First Hangover was really, really good. But that or Step Brothers. Something funny.
Brilliant. Best friend in football?
Well, Slaney's out of football now, so I'll go with either Forrest or Robbie, both the exact same.
Brilliant. And finally, the best manager you've played under out your whole career?
After the comment, I've got to say Mark Roberts, isn't it? To be fair, all my managers have been really good. Probably the most Ian McCall's probably got the most out of me as a player. So I'll go with Ian McCall just because of how much he done for me, to be honest.
Brilliant. Nicky, it's been an absolute pleasure to be on the show, mate. Thanks very much for doing that, and all the best for the season.
Thanks for having me on. Thanks,
Nicky. Cheers.
Mate, thank you.
Cheers.